Hello, we're live. Let's see if this actually shows up this time. Oh, Bloom. If you can see us out there, say something to us. Say, oh, I see us. We're there. We're there. Okay.
Oh,
hi, everybody. Thank you for your patience. We had a little technical glitch. And as you can see, my co-host, Amy, is not here. So I am doing this all on my own, as she did last week, but she's much better at it than I am. So tonight we have awesome guests, though. We have Natalia Sylvester, who writes contemporary adult fiction and also young adult fiction. She has won the International Latino Award for Everyone Knows You Go Home. And your first YA novel was Running, correct?
yes.
It came out last year.
It did, yeah.
With the best cover ever, I thought. And then you have this brand new book coming out, which we will be talking about soon, that has a mermaid on it. And I'm really excited to hear more about that. We will talk about that more. And then we also have Stacey Lee, who is a New York Times bestselling author, PEN Award winner, and one of the founders of We Need Diverse Books, which is amazing. Thanks. And so excited to talk more about that. Her book behind her, as you can see, Luck of the Titanic, is her latest young adult novel, right?
Yes.
Young adult. Okay, let me make sure. Mm-hmm. And she also writes adult fiction and YA fiction, one contemporary, one historical. So the coolest thing about both of these authors is that I have known them since I was a debut, and since they were debut authors. We were young little chickadees. I mean, maybe not super young on my end, but anyway, fresh out of the eggs.
Young at heart.
Young at heart, ready to go out into the world. And I love that I still know you, that we still, are in touch in various groups or online and so on. Natalia and I were in the debutante ball together. Yeah. And we just realized before we came on tonight that we actually nominated Stacey to be the next class of the debutante ball. And we'd forgotten. But all good things and lots of overlap here. So anyway, it's great to have you guys. Before we get into their books, let's talk about what we're reading. Stacey, do you want to share with us? I think you have an arc, right?
I do. It's actually a pre-arc. It's a bound manuscript of Great or Nothing. And this one is by 4 authors, Joy McCullough, Tess Sharp, Jessica Spotswood, and Carolyn Tung Richmond. And it's a retelling of Little Women during World War II. And each of the authors has taken one of the girls' voices. I'm just at the beginning, so I'm just starting it, but I can't wait to read it. And I love retellings. I love historical, so it's like totally my jam.
Totally. I love retellings too. I've actually written one, and I'm contemplating another perhaps, but we'll see about that. Natalia, what are you reading?
Very cool. I'm reading a middle grade novel called Merci Suarez Can't Dance. It's actually the sequel to the Newbery Award-winning novel Merci Suarez Changes Gears, which was both are written by Meg Medina. In the first book, Merci is in 6th grade and she's dealing with all the drama of being in middle school and also coming to terms with her, realizing that her grandfather has Alzheimer's. And it's just such a beautiful book and also very humorous too, and just so from the heart. And so I'm really enjoying the second one. As soon as it came out, I got it, and then I moved, and then I had all my books in boxes, and then I couldn't read anything. So now I'm slowly unpacking books, and this was one of the first ones that I unpacked, aside from this one shelf that I have over here.
I love that you read middle grade, and I love reading middle grade, and I love reading all sorts of books, and I love that you do too. The humor. I love the humor.
I do, and I love that. I have another thing that I found when I was packing was just all my memory boxes, and I still have notes that my friends and I used to, I keep everything. So I found notes that I had shared with my friends when I was in 7th grade, and the drama.
That is so hilarious.
It's just so wonderful and amazing. And for things that I'm oh my God, I can't believe we had a 3-week-long fight about this one thing, and so it's just, I just love it. I love that time in your life when those things really are a big deal. Like everything is a big deal at every time in our lives, and we shouldn't like diminish that just because we get older.
It's funny that that you guys are saying. Stacey had the same thought. I didn't think to read middle grade until my kids were that age, and I found that I really love them. They're very heartfelt. Like you said, the humor is great, and I don't know, there's something magical about them. There aren't all of these rules that we have with adult fiction that you don't realize are there until you read a middle grade novel or even a young adult novel. I mean, they all have sort of their lanes, but there's something magical about those. So I definitely enjoy them too.
And those are the ones we remember, right? We remember them, and they've imprinted themselves at such a critical age for us, so they're always in there. And unlike adult books, I may not remember what I read last year or even like a month ago, but I still remember Charlotte's Web. And
or Harriet the Spy and the mayonnaise and tomato sandwiches. I will never forget Harriet the Spy.
Oh yes,
when I was a kid. Yeah, absolutely. So I am reading two things. You guys know I always have an audiobook going. So right now I'm listening to Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. And it's a terrific audiobook, and it's a terrific book. The writing, so she also wrote The Thousand Doors of January. I don't know if any of you read that.
I think I saw the cover.
It's magnificent, and it's a gorgeous, a little bit dark but gorgeous fantasy. And this is sort of a historical fantasy of witches during the suffragette movement, and this trio of sisters that have been separated and come back together, and they're sort of reinventing their magic. And the writing is gorgeous, and I love anything witches, like literally anything. I will write a witch book one day, probably under a pen name, but I'm gonna write a witch book. So I'm totally devouring that one. And the other one is, I have to give a shout out to Elise Hooper, who has been here on the Bloom Room before. I love her books. They're very thoughtful, well-researched historicals that also have a lot of emotional depth to them. And Angels of the Pacific is out early next year. And it's about an Army nurse, an American Army nurse who goes to Manila and unfortunately is caught up in the Japanese bombing during World War II. So I have not started that. That just arrived recently, and I'm excited to dig in. So that's what I'm reading. So Trisha, we have a couple of comments from our some of our favorites that join us most weeks. Trisha says, you don't have to think about the sex. Oh, for middle grade, I assume. It's like I had to address that one.
It's like a really good out of context comment. Like we could just like plop it into random things. And
we totally could. I might bring that one back later when we're talking about something else completely unrelated. So we usually talk about Poppy news, but we don't have a lot of Poppy news this week, you guys. I think it is August. I feel like it's been a very quiet month. Most of us haven't been online all that much. We've been vacationing or trying to be outside, and now people are starting to go back to school, the kids, and so not a lot of news. So we're just going to roll on and talk about these two luscious books from our guests. So Natalia, you want to talk about your new book, which was called, here it is, Breathe and Count Back from 10.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that you can do that with the cover. So yeah,
that's a fancy platform.
Very cool. Breathe and Count Back from 10 is my second YA novel, and it's coming out May of next year. And it's about a Peruvian American teen named Veronica who has hip dysplasia, and she is trying out to become a mermaid at a theme park in Central Florida. She lives in Central Florida. She tries out to become a mermaid over the summer before her senior year, when she's kind of navigating things like first love and feeling comfortable and safe in her own body. And I'm just so excited that it's out. Like, I feel like this is a book I've probably always wanted to write, even since I started writing. Like, I was born with hip dysplasia. The very first things I remember writing were essays about my surgeries and my experiences growing up, being in and out of surgeries. And like I remember I submitted them to magazines, and but then at the same time I also really always wanted to be a mermaid.
That was going to be my next question, because I'm sitting here dying to ask it, because I 100% wanted to be a mermaid.
Yes.
Did you watch Splash with Tom Hanks?
Oh
And
my god, of course.
yeah, like
I
a
can
million
never look
times.
at like a thing of salt the same way again.
Oh,
So,
so
yeah.
okay, and I need to know, have you ever worn any sort of mermaid gear? Was that part of your research? Probably not, but I have to ask
That
anyway.
is a story about this. So, it was the theme park she auditions for is based on Weeki Wachee Springs, in Florida, which is like this world famous theme park that has, you know, ever since the 40s, they've had mermaids who, like, you know, dance every day underwater, and there's like an underwater theater where you see them dancing through a glass, and they have mermaid camp, which is called Sirens Camp, or Sirens of the Siren. I forget the exact name of it, but I signed up to go to mermaid camp as part of research for this novel. I had my spot. I was supposed to go in August of last year, and then
Pandemic.
yeah,
That
I
you
was gonna
might
get
still
down.
have to sign up again, because I'm sorry, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard of. A mermaid camp.
Yes, they were gonna teach me, like I was gonna get a tail and I was gonna learn all the moves. And
Wow.
it
What
was just,
are the moves? The moves are just wiggling underwater, aren't they?
no, there's entire like choreographies and like
Wow.
techniques, like different kinds of spins and turns, and there's a very specific kind of swimming. So yeah, just all sorts of things. And
I might be becoming obsessed with this. I'm gonna look it up.
Yes.
My daughter, who's now 14, when she was 4, 5, 6, wanted to be a mermaid like every other young girl, right?
Mhm.
And we actually bought her like a swimsuit tail that you could pull up.
Yeah.
She'd wear it in the bathtub,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and she would, take it to the lake or to wherever, and you really have to keep an eye on them at that age, because you're like, okay, you can't move your feet, you can't get down. So I'd have to like kind of stand in the water with her, but totally obsessed. And I thought, this is a thing, this is a girl thing, because I had this too back in the day. So love
That's
it.
incredible. I imagine a lot of them are synchronized swimmers, or maybe become that, because I imagine you need some skill, right, to keep yourself up when you don't have your use of your
Yeah.
feet like that. That's
Well, and your core must be like sort of rock hard, because you have to, I'm just kind of
Yeah.
doing the
right.
motion here. You gotta keep yourself up, right?
There's so much to it. Like I did get to interview some, and like apparently one of the things that they talk about is buoyancy. Like it's like to control your buoyancy, because otherwise you just float right up, you know, and you have to really, especially when they're at the depths that they are. And they use these air hoses so they don't have to come up for water, because the shows will be like 20 to 30 minutes, and then they'll just, you know, kind of breathe through the air hose every once in a while. But yeah,
Wow.
I
Love
I
it.
feel like I would look so not graceful, because anytime I've tried to do it in the pool, like my face is just like, you know, and they're like smiling like it's nothing, and I'm just like blowing
right.
out.
Happy look.
There would be nothing graceful about me trying to be a mermaid. Literally nothing. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody. But I still want to try it. How funny. So when is your book out, Natalia?
May of next year.
May of next year. Okay. So we have some time.
Yeah.
Check it out. We can pre-order, I assume.
It's
Since
available
there's
for
a cover.
pre-order.
Yes. All right. I will definitely put the pre-order links in there.
Wow.
And Stacey, tell us about your new book, Luck of the Titanic.
Yes, Luck of the Titanic. This one is about a Chinese-British girl who decides to go collect her brother, who was sailing on the Titanic as he's being transported along with his company of Chinese seamen to the Caribbean. And she wants to collect him and go to America, convince him to go to America. And they're going to do this by auditioning for a member of the Ringling Brothers Circus, who was actually a passenger aboard the Titanic, to be in the circus. So she is a Chinese acrobat. She has some skills, and she's hoping her brother will want to go with her. But then you know what happens. So
Dun, dun, dun.
like a little crimp in the plans. But it's actually inspired by the 8 Chinese seamen who were aboard the Titanic, which nobody knows about. And
No, I love that you wrote this story. I did not know about them.
yes, they were on there. They weren't just they had sort of a sad story because of the Exclusion Act. 6 of them survived, which is the remarkable thing. 6 of 8, which is like 75%. Whereas if you know the Titanic, the survival rate of the third class was really like 25%. So, and then B, when they got to the US, after having survived, they were immediately transported away and not allowed to come into the country, unlike all the others who survived the Titanic. And so really their stories were lost. And until recently, when these British documentarians decided to try to do a call out on social media to find the survivors and to sort of unlock their stories.
Wow.
Of course, they've all passed away. Now there's a son of one of the survivors who had him very late in life. And so they did a documentary called The Six. It hasn't been released in the US yet, but I'm very anxious to watch this
I'm sure.
documentary. Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to I hope you post about it so we can, because I'll forget, but if I see you post it, I will be all over it.
Yeah, I just
really
posted a Facebook on Facebook about, it was an interview on NPR with the son of one of the survivors. And he owns a Chinese restaurant now in Wisconsin. And he did not know that his father was in the Titanic for many, many, many years.
Wow.
About it. It was kind of a shameful thing for them to have survived. Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, oh, you're having dinner one night and your dad just drops in back when I survived the Titanic, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Yes, actually, I don't think the father ever told him. It was relatives who told him. A relative said, oh yeah, he was on a boat that sunk, but they didn't say Titanic. And then more years passed, and he found out that it was actually the Titanic his father was on. So, and it was really hard to find out, nothing was down. So he realized that his father's name matched one of the ones on the ship log. Then figured it out. Things started unraveling.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you have a fan here who's Kate, who's excited to get her hands on the book.
Oh, super. Thanks.
So we got to get to the random part of the night, which we always love. Do you guys have something you would like to share with everyone that is a product or perhaps a little talent? Natalia, I think you have something you'd like to share with us.
Okay, so I thought I would share, speaking of YA and mermaids, I'm sharing something that I created in my teens. I used to be a photographer in my teens, and one day I decided to take a self-portrait and really messed it up terribly and cut my own head off of it. And so when I developed it, it was just not a very good picture. But then I had also taken a picture of these like vines that I thought were really cool. And this is back when we were like in dark rooms. So I actually double exposed the pictures.
Very cool.
Maybe I can do something with them. And then I ended up painting over it. And it ended up being like this mermaid inspired portrait.
I'm already impressed and I haven't seen it.
Can you see it okay?
That's beautiful.
Ooh.
So, I mean, you can't see the colors too well, but I titled it Mermaid. And I don't know, it just is something that was such a happy accident. Like I actually had put it in the trash, and I had, and then when I looked at it again, and my teacher was like, why don't you try coloring it, like painting it? So I was like, okay, let me take it back out. She ended up entering it in like a countywide photography contest that I didn't know she entered it in.
Wow.
So like weeks later, she came up and she was like, hey, you won. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, you won Best in Show. Like,
that's amazing. Can you show us again real quick?
Yeah.
And I want to hear about painting this. So you took a photo, you double exposed it, and then I'm trying to picture what painting that would be like. So you taped it down on a canvas.
Well, you just paint I painted directly onto the
photo paper.
Like once it was developed and dried and everything, there's paints, and like at the time, I'd never done this before. I actually just used a Q-tip. I didn't even have like actual brushes, but I just painted it with a Q-tip and chose the colors. You can't really see it very well.
Acrylic paint? Is this acrylic paint or? Okay, I'm just sorry. I'm asking too many art questions.
Yeah.
I love art, and my daughter is a bit of an artist, so I'm learning about all the different mediums and all the different, all that stuff. So it's very fun. Cool. That's amazing.
Awesome. That's
I'm
amazing.
glad you kept it too. You need to put that in a frame, like
Yeah,
your mermaid.
Yeah, I really should. I'm like, man, it was always a mermaid. It was always about mermaids.
Stacey, what about you? I hear you have a hidden talent.
I was just going to mention, I was telling Natalia that I actually put a mermaid in every one of my books.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Not an actual mermaid, but it'll be like a mermaid platter or a comparison to a mermaid. But I always will use the word mermaid. And it's something that my friend Stephanie Garber, she is another YA author. She does that too. We both do that. It started off as sort of like we both love mermaids, and we put it in our first book, and then we just continued to do that.
So now it's an Easter egg. So as we're reading, we have to look for the mermaid. Love it. I love Easter eggs. That's so fun.
Yeah. So one thing I started doing during the pandemic was during that time where everyone was sort of hand making their own masks. Do you remember at the very beginning? I discovered this fabric store called Fab Mo in our local area, where this little old lady, bless her heart, she decided that she saw so much waste in the upholstery industry and the interior design industry. They had all these beautiful sample fabrics that would just go in the garbage. So she decided to start taking them off their hands and then sort of selling them out of her home first. And then it became it's a nonprofit that she started. And so you had to make an appointment, and, during COVID, there was 3 people allowed during 1 hour, and you had to go in, you had to find your fabric, and then you had to leave. And so and these were beautiful, beautiful fabrics. So I decided I would start making book sleeves for Luck of the Titanic. For people who pre-ordered it, I always like to do a pre-order giveaway or something, just something to give my readers. And so I thought I would make 10 to 25. I ended up making over 500.
Wow.
And so I brought a few so you can see. They're all these beautiful, this one, and they're all different. This one's velvet with a silk interior. This one is also velvet, different color blue.
Beautiful.
Oh, with this shiny. So you slip your book inside. Oh, look at that one's beautiful.
Yeah, you slip your book inside. Let me get a book. So a book goes inside here, and then you can snap it, and then you can carry it around without damaging the cover, right?
Plus, it's gorgeous. It's like a purse. It's a book purse.
All different. And this one, these fabrics, I can't believe that they're just going in the garbage, So I was doing that. I often give away book sleeves through my Instagram account. If anybody wants one, they can go look. In fact, I'm giving one away right now this week with a copy of the UK version of Luck of the Titanic, which just came out a couple weeks ago. So
this was a great use of your time too. It's not like writing where really mind intensive, but you're doing something sort of not exactly brainless, but that meditative.
Oh yeah, totally. For me, singing really helps me. Just doing something with my hands, frees up my mind in a weird way. I don't know if you
absolutely
your art, you feel that way too.
I do with cooking, actually. This is why I spent entirely too much time in the kitchen learning things that you should never learn ever, like how to make a homemade pretzel and beer cheese sauce to dip it in. Nobody needs to know how to make that. I perfected that bad boy.
Wow.
That's the kind of stuff I did. I needed to, and you just got tired of eating the same and being at home. And I know this is first world problems, but it was all part of that pandemic shutdown. And so
totally. Did you make sourdough?
I did some, but not a lot. I kind of honed in on focaccia, different kinds of focaccia that you brush with all these fancy olive oils and herbs and cheese and tomatoes. Kate, I agree. This is some good information right here. Well, ladies, that's it. We're at the end of our show, and it's quiet without Amy here, who's usually heckling me a little and laughing and chatting with you guys too. But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your lovely books. And we're going to look for that pre-order, Natalia. And Stacey, Luck of the Titanic is actually in my audio queue. So that is happening.
Yay. Thank
So
you so
thank
much
you guys so much for
having us.
coming. And we will see you around and online. And hopefully I see you guys in person soon.
I know.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. Thank you all for being here.
All right.